Men believe power is loud. They think it announces itself in commands, in armies marching in formation, in wealth displayed like a crown under the sun for all to witness. They imagine dominance must echo, must shake walls, must leave no doubt in the ears of spectators. But the most dangerous power is silent. It does not beg to be seen. It does not argue for recognition. It is the power to ignore. To ignore is not weakness, it is selection. It is the art of choosing, with deliberate precision, what deserves your mind and what deserves to starve in the shadows. The powerful understand something the common man does not. Attention is currency, rarer than gold and more volatile than emotion. And the one who controls where his attention flows controls the architecture of his destiny. The crowd screams for reaction because reaction gives them relevance. When you react impulsively, you kneel before their provocation. When you ignore with composure, you remain sovereign, seated firmly on the throne of your own judgment. Psychologically, every insult, every rumor, every provocation is bait carefully designed to hook your ego. It is engineered to pull you into a game you did not choose but are pressured to play. The ego is fragile. It demands defense, justification, retaliation. It whispers urgently, "Answer them. Prove yourself. Show them who you are. Do not let this pass." But the disciplined mind asks a colder, more strategic question. What is gained? Not what is felt, but what is gained. Most conflicts are traps constructed by smaller minds seeking significance through your engagement. They lack elevation, so they attempt to borrow yours. If you argue with the mediocre, you elevate them to your level. If you wrestle with pigs, you become covered in mud, no matter how skilled you are. Ignoring is not avoidance born from fear. It is strategy born from clarity. It denies your opponent the battlefield, leaving them shadowboxing alone while you conserve strength. Observe how the masses behave in moments of criticism or praise. They are addicted to reaction, conditioned to respond instantly as though silence were a flaw. They crave validation, applause, acknowledgement like oxygen. Their emotional states are puppeteered by opinions they barely respect. A compliment inflates them beyond proportion. Criticism shatters them into fragments. Such people are easy to control because their self-worth is outsourced to strangers. The powerful never outsource their worth. They cultivate an inner citadel, stone by stone, thought by thought, where their value is self-determined. And when arrows of gossip or mockery strike the walls, they do not open the gates to argue with archers. They do not shout explanations across the battlefield. They continue building their empire while the archers exhaust themselves. Their silence is not confusion. It is confidence fortified by self-knowledge. There is a deeper philosophy beneath this discipline. To ignore is to understand hierarchy of voices, of influence, of relevance. Not every voice stands equal. Not every perspective deserves a throne in your mind. The foolish treat every opinion as sacred, as though disagreement were a crisis. The wise treat most opinions as noise, background static in a world overflowing with commentary. You must decide whose voice shapes your direction and whose voice dissolves into irrelevance. If every passerby can redirect you with a remark or rumor, then you are not a leader. You are a leaf carried by unpredictable winds. The powerful never reveal that their clarity is protected by ruthless filtration. They guard their mental space like territory, allowing only constructive counsel within its borders. Everything else is dismissed without ceremony, without apology. Consider envy, that silent force that awakens whenever someone dares to rise. When you ascend, financially, intellectually, spiritually, you will disturb the insecure. Your ambition will expose their stagnation, your movement will reflect their stillness. They will attempt to pull you back, not always with force, but with ridicule disguised as humor, skepticism disguised as wisdom. They will laugh at your dreams to make themselves comfortable in their inaction. If you respond defensively, you confirm their power over you. You validate their critique by wrestling with it. But if you ignore them and continue forward, you create psychological imbalance within them. Your indifference unsettles more than your anger ever could. It forces them to confront their own limitations without your participation. Ignoring is also an act of emotional discipline, perhaps one of the highest forms of it. Emotions demand expression. Anger demands retaliation. Hurt demands explanation. Pride demands defense. But strategy demands patience, and patience demands control. A ruler who reacts to every insult becomes predictable, and predictability is weakness disguised as transparency. When others cannot provoke you, they cannot manipulate you. When they test your boundaries and find no emotional lever to pull, they lose influence. The greatest strength is not striking back in fury, it is remaining unshaken under pressure. The mind that cannot be disturbed cannot be conquered. In mastering your reactions, you master the doorway through which others attempt to enter your peace. This does not mean you are passive, timid, or incapable of confrontation. It means you are selective, and selection is power refined. The lion does not chase every barking dog in the savannah. He does not turn at every noise, nor does he dignify every provocation with pursuit. He walks with direction. And in his silence, there is intimidation, not because he roars constantly, but because he does not need to. Power is not proven through noise, it is demonstrated through trajectory. When you ignore trivial opposition, you signal that your focus is anchored to something greater than petty conflict. That alone shifts the balance of perception. People begin to sense that your attention is too valuable to be bought cheaply. And when attention becomes scarce, its presence becomes formidable. There is also a spiritual element hidden within this philosophy, one that transcends psychology and strategy. Attention is life force. Where you place it grows, whether you intend it or not. If you feed negativity, resentment, and gossip with your focus, they multiply like weeds in fertile soil. If you feed purpose, discipline, and vision, they expand into structures that outlive noise. The powerful understand that life is finite. That time bleeds quietly, whether wasted or invested. Every minute spent defending yourself against the ignorant is a minute stolen from your mission. Ignoring becomes more than strategy. It becomes sacred protection of time. It is a ritual of guarding your energy against dilution. In this sense, silence is not emptiness. It is conservation of power. Many fear being misunderstood. They scramble to clarify themselves to everyone, fearing that silence will distort their image. They draft explanations, defend intentions, argue context, all in the hope of being seen correctly. But clarity is not achieved through endless explanation. It is achieved through consistent results. Words can be twisted, outcomes cannot. When your success becomes undeniable, explanations become unnecessary. The powerful do not rush to defend their image because they understand that reputation is not built in debates, it is built in patterns. Let time testify. Let consistency speak. When reality itself begins to echo your intentions, critics lose language. In that moment, silence proves stronger than argument ever was. There is cruelty in ignoring, and that is precisely why it holds such force. Humans are wired for acknowledgement. To be unseen feels like erasure, like a quiet dismissal of existence. When you deny attention, you deny validation, and validation is a currency many depend on to feel significant. That silence becomes heavier than insult because it offers nothing to fight against. But this weapon must be used with precision. Ignoring without purpose is arrogance. Ignoring with intention is dominance. It is not about belittling others. It is about protecting your trajectory. Silence, when disciplined, is not indifference to humanity, it is indifference to distraction. Philosophically, ignoring teaches detachment. a lesson the Stoics whispered long before modern men rediscovered it in self-help slogans. You cannot control what is said about you, nor can you silence every critic. But you can control your participation. You can decide whether you enter the arena of noise or remain anchored in your purpose. The moment you detach from the compulsive need to respond, you free yourself from invisible chains. Reaction binds you. Restraint liberates you. Freedom is not granted by external approval. It is practiced through internal discipline. And the man who practices restraint repeatedly eventually finds that insults lose their sting and praise loses its intoxication. Balance replaces volatility. Observe politics. Observe kings. Observe conquerors throughout history. The most feared leaders were not those who responded to every critic or silenced every whisper. They responded only when necessary, and when they did, it was decisive, calculated, and unforgettable. Their silence created suspense. Their response created impact. Scarcity amplifies value. When you speak rarely, your words carry weight because they are not diluted by constant defense. When you act only when it matters, your actions reshape the field. Silence then becomes part of strategy, a pause that gathers power. And when finally broken, it shifts outcomes rather than merely filling space. The weak believe ignoring means losing. They interpret silence as surrender because they equate noise with control. They assume that if you do not answer publicly, you must be defenseless privately. But in truth, silence is often preparation. While others argue in open arenas, the powerful move in hidden corridors. While critics debate endlessly, strategists build quietly, reinforcing structures that outlast temporary opinions. The battlefield is not social, it is structural. Win in structure, through competence, achievement, and consistency, and noise becomes irrelevant background static. The powerful understand that visibility is not victory. Results are victory, and results are rarely produced in chaotic arguments. They are produced in solitude, in discipline, in relentless focus away from distraction. Silence, therefore, is not retreat, it is recalibration. There will be moments when ignoring feels painful, almost unbearable. Moments when lies spread like wildfire, and your character is questioned by people who have never known your journey. In those moments, the ego burns violently, demanding correction, explanation, defense. It will feel unjust, and justice itself will tempt you to react. But ask yourself a deeper question. Is your reputation built on gossip or on consistent action repeated over time? Reputation forged through truth does not collapse under rumor. Time reveals truth more effectively than debate ever could. Patience becomes the ally of the powerful because time exposes patterns, and patterns cannot be fabricated indefinitely. When you refuse to argue, you allow time to become your advocate. Psychologically, ignoring rewires you in profound ways. It trains your nervous system not to spike at every stimulus or perceived threat. It reduces impulsive emotional surges and strengthens deliberate response. Over time, your brain learns to distinguish between urgency and illusion. This strengthens your internal locus of control, anchoring your stability within rather than outside. Instead of reacting reflexively to noise, you respond deliberately to relevance. This composure alters how others perceive you as well. Calmness intimidates because it signals emotional independence. Emotional chaos invites attack because it exposes vulnerability. When people cannot predict your reactions, they lose their ability to manipulate your responses. Your stillness becomes a psychological shield stronger than aggression. Understand this clearly. Ignoring is not denial of reality. It is prioritization of energy. It is not pretending problems do not exist. It is recognizing which problems deserve engagement and which problems dissolve without intervention. Address what threatens your foundation, your health, your purpose, your integrity. Ignore what merely scratches your surface, petty gossip, fleeting judgment, temporary hostility. The wise ruler does not mobilize an army against a mosquito. He swats it or lets it die on its own. Overreaction wastes resources. Precision preserves them. True strength is measured not by how many battles you fight, but by how many unnecessary battles you avoid. Over time, something extraordinary happens when you practice this discipline consistently. Those who once mocked you grow silent, not because they suddenly admire you, but because your lack of reaction starved their entertainment. Attention is oxygen to drama. Remove oxygen and drama suffocates naturally. Many conflicts survive not on truth, but on participation. When you withdraw participation, you dismantle the stage upon which conflict performs. This is why the powerful rarely advertise this art openly. A population that learns to ignore manipulation cannot be manipulated easily. Indifference to distraction becomes rebellion against control. And in mastering this quiet resistance, you reclaim authority over your focus and your direction. So learn this quiet discipline deliberately and patiently. Guard your mind like a fortress guarded by selective gates. Filter voices without guilt, understanding that not every opinion deserves residency in your thoughts. Move without announcement. Let progress be your language and results be your defense. Let your consistency answer accusations that words never should. In a world addicted to noise, become selective silence. For the man who masters what to ignore masters himself, and self-mastery is the highest form of power. And the one who masters himself requires no permission from the world, no applause from the crowd, and no defense against shadows. His life becomes his argument, and his existence becomes his victory. This is the Golden Circle Philosophy channel. Like the video, share it with a friend and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you for watching.